What's up, YouTube? This is Guy, and today I am checking out, as you can see on the table, this Invicta dive watch. Now, I did an unboxing and initial impressions of this watch last week, so if you follow the channel, you're aware that I picked this up on Amazon Prime Day for an absolute steal, $49. Prime Day had 30% discounts, and then I got, for some reason, I don't even know why, another $15 off of the discounted price. So when I saw the price, I said, all right, I'm going to check it out and see what these Invicta dive watches are all about. So my initial impressions video was frankly very favorable, but I didn't take off any of the plastic. I just unboxed it and took a quick look at it. It was a true unboxing. It was the very first time I'd ever seen this watch in person up close. I wanted to spend a little time with it and wear it around and really evaluate it because, again, my initial impressions were quite favorable. Now, I know that a lot of people really don't like this watch. And again, based off of those initial impressions, I didn't understand why there was so much hate for it. And frankly, after having spent a little bit of time with it now, I can reiterate that. I don't understand why there's so much hate for it. I've had some people comment and suggest that the reason that it is not a very well-regarded watch is because, frankly, it's just a Rolex Submariner copy or clone, an homage, if you will. For me, I think that's a plus. I mean, very few of us are ever going to be able to own a Rolex Submariner. Now, there's other Rolex Submariner clones that are probably nicer. Steinhardt makes one that looks fantastic. There's several out there. And this probably isn't the very best one by any stretch of the imagination. But even at its normal retail price of between $80 and $90, I feel like this is a pretty good value. And I don't understand, again, why there's so much hate for it. There are a few things about it aesthetically that I don't particularly care for, and I mentioned those before in the previous video, but I'll bring them up here again as we talk about this. But overall, I do think that this is a really good value, especially if you can find it on sale like I did for $50 or less. It's crazy good. Now, we'll jump in and talk about some basic specs on this watch real quick, get them out of the way. We have a case diameter of 40 millimeters. We have a thickness of 14 millimeters, which is just a hair thicker than the Seiko dive watches that I've become accustomed to, but it's not bad. 14 millimeters is fine. We have a lug width of 20 millimeters, which is right on, and the overall lug-to-lug width from top to bottom, or what I have liked to call the wingspan of the watch, I get 46 millimeters on my caliper, somewhere between 46 and 47. So it's really sized quite good. It fits my wrist, which is a 7-inch wrist, perfectly. I love the dimensions and the proportions of this watch. It's perfect. If the dimensions are an exact copy of the Rolex Submariner, I'm not 100% sure. I know there's a lot of those Submariner clone and homage watches that don't follow all of the dimensions to a T. And I don't know if this one does either, but the dimensions of this watch are excellent in my opinion. This watch does run the Japanese NH35A movement, and we can see that movement through the case back that does have an exhibition case back window. Go ahead and open up the bracelet and give you guys a little bit of a closer look at that case back. It's not a particularly well decorated movement. There's nothing super special about it. Although the rotor is colored yellow, and there's some fancy text, if not what I would consider decoration on it, but it's a basic movement. The NH35A is an unbranded version of the Seiko 4R series, the 4R35, 4R36. It's a decent mechanical automatic movement. I have no complaints with that. I've had experience with it in Seiko watches in the past. This particular example is extraordinarily accurate. I want to say it's losing a little bit of time, something on the order of 2 or 3 seconds per day, though, which is outstanding for a sub $100 automatic wristwatch. Now, I know that that's going to be luck of the draw, and with my example, I just got extraordinarily lucky to get one that's so accurate. However, I just thought I would let you guys know and kind of brag a little bit, I guess, that I got lucky with my draw, and yeah, super accurate. A little bit of basic information about this NH35A movement. It's a 21,600 vibrations or beats per hour movement. It does feature hand winding and hacking, and it has roughly a 41-hour power reserve. In regards to accuracy, the specifications, the spec sheet suggests a acceptable range of negative 20 seconds per day through plus 40 seconds per day. So that mine is running just a few seconds slow. Again, that's an outstanding, probably almost outlier. But my experience with these Seiko movements, these Japanese movements, is that they're generally much more accurate than the specifications. I've never seen one run plus 40 seconds fast. And once it starts approaching that number, I would almost consider it maybe not broken, but it could obviously be regulated to be much, much better than that. My experience with these movements is usually they're within plus or minus 10 seconds per day. Yeah, it's a decent movement. And I think it's a good movement for the price. I think you're getting a lot of value in that regard when we talk about the price of this watch. Even at its normal retail price of 80 or 90 bucks is what I see it generally go for. Other information about this guy, we have a mineral crystal with a magnifier at the 3 o'clock position over the date window. Mineral crystal is obviously kind of bottom rung, and at this price point, that's what I expect. So just keep in mind that there's a good chance that you're going to scuff or scratch this crystal off if you're not careful with it. But at the price, it's almost a disposable watch, so I'm not too worried about it. We do have a screw-down crown at 3 o'clock. It is signed with a, Invicta logo or some sort of cross there. Maybe I guess that's their logo. And if you look at the center of the logo there, it has that little cross thing. So I guess that's the Invicta logo on the crown. The crown's knurling or texturing, it's not great. It's a little slick, but it's okay. Not bad, but not super grippy either. As previously mentioned, we have a date complication at 3 o'clock position, and it does have that Cyclops magnifier. The magnifier, pretty good. I've had other watches with magnifiers, and I found them to be not super clear, and it sort of actually made the date complication a little hard to read. This magnifier is good, it's clear, it's crisp, it's very legible. Of course, the minute hand is currently covering the date, but that'll move shortly, and we'll see it better. We do have a 120-click unidirectional bezel. I would, in my initial video, I mentioned like, oh, the bezel action is pretty good. In hindsight, it's a little snug, it's tight, it's difficult to rotate if your fingers are slick at all. It doesn't stand up real tall, so it's hard to get a grip on for me. It does work, it's not awful, but it seems just a little bit too tight and too difficult to work. That's a minor complaint. I don't think it's awful. Obviously, you saw I gave it a full rotation. It's just a little snug for my tastes. But it is what it is. I hesitate to call it a major complaint. It's just kind of a small gripe. That said, the 120-click unidirectional bezel also does feature a little lume pip up at the 12 o'clock position, which is pretty standard. We would come to expect that. We have 200-meter water resist. I have heard other complaints. Now, the main complaint about this watch is, oh, it's a Rolex Submariner ripoff, and that's why a lot of people don't like it. I have heard some other complaints where people suggest that the water resist is grossly overstated, and that may be true. I haven't gotten this thing wet. I haven't tested the water resist, so I can't really comment on that. I would probably say I don't get any of my watches wet that aren't ISO certified divers. That's just me. So I don't, when a watch comes with a water resist rating, be it 10 bar, 20 bar, whatever, I almost don't pay attention to that. For me, it's a non-factor. For you, it might be, and you might want to keep in mind that it's overstated. But again, I can't personally confirm that. I've just heard that complaint. The back, as you saw, it does have an exhibition screw-down case with an exhibition window there. That's fairly atypical for a dive watch. I would imagine that could potentially prevent it from being as water resist as is stated in the specifications. The other main thing about this watch, it does have a stainless steel bracelet, polished center links with a fold-over safety clasp. Downside of this clasp is, while it does have the fold-over, which is nice, it's just a friction lock clasp. It doesn't have push-button deployment. Friction isn't too difficult to open, but we'd rather see push buttons on the clasp if we could get it. The swing arm is the cheap stamped steel, very lightweight, cheap clasp, although we do have 4 micro adjustment holes, which is nice. So overall, kind of a hit, kind of a miss on clasp. At least it has the micro adjustment. The things that I don't like about this watch are mostly going to be aesthetic things. Number one, this awful Invicta logo on the side of the case, the engraving. I find that to be downright hideous. It's a shame that they put that on there. Somebody had suggested to me that that was due to a lawsuit between Invicta and Rolex, and they were required to put that on the side of the case. If that's true, then I guess, oh well, what are you going to do? If they decided to just do that of their own volition and thought it was a good idea, whoever designed this watch was stoned. They're crazy. But if they had no choice, then, they had no choice, whatever. I hate it, though. I think that that's an awful, horrible eyesore. I know people use this watch as a platform for modding and modifications fairly often, and I've seen what people do is they actually grind that off. I suppose for $50, why not? Take the movement out, pop the bezel off, get out the files and the Dremel, and sand that right off and repolish the side of the case. It looks good. People that have done it have done good jobs on it in pictures that I've seen, so hey, that's an option if you hate it as much as me. Another thing that I dislike, and this is very nitpicky, I understand that, but for me it's a problem. The second hand, the counterbalance side has that Invicta logo. I think that that's hideous, it's ugly, I don't like it. Again, it's nitpicky, I get it, but it's just my opinion. I don't like it. I wish that it did not have that Invicta logo on the counterbalance side of the second hand. To each their own. Another thing that I dislike about this watch, and let's first talk about the dial and the dial layout. Obviously, very much a Rolex Submariner homage. Thing I don't like about it, though, is the indices are very small. All of the circle pips in particular, they're quite small. The rectangular markers at 6, 9, and even the triangle at 12 to a lesser extent, they're all just too small for me. They are nice applied indices, and I'll see if I can kind of zoom in here real tight and show it to you. Very nice looking applied indices. The coloration of is a little off-white. I assume it's because of whatever lume they're using, but yeah, the coloration's not great, and the sizing is just too small for me. I think that it would benefit from being a little bit bigger. Probably just because I have bad eyesight. I don't know. I mean, I think design-wise, it feels a little empty, a little too spread out as well. Your opinion may vary on that, but for me, I'd like it to be a little bulkier indices. The handset, with the exception of the counterbalance side of the second hand, is nice. It's a typical Mercedes-style handset. I like that very much. The dial itself, the Invicta logo up at the 12 o'clock position, if my camera will focus. It's nice. It's applied, both the logo and the word Invicta. Printing on the bottom side, automatic, professional, etc. It's crisp and clear. It's nice printing. The lume on this watch, and I'll try to remember to roll in a lume shot of it. It's not great. It is not Seiko quality style lume that I've come to be accustomed to. It's a letdown, in my opinion, but so is the lume on the Casio dive watch that I reviewed in the past, the Duro MVD or MDV 106, I forget the reference. Similar to that lume, in my opinion. It's just not very strong, it's not very long lasting. But again, at this price point, what do you expect, right? The bracelet itself, polished edges, edge links, or center links rather, with brushing edge links. It looks good. It's not too flexible. It's got some flex. You can tell it's a relatively cheap bracelet, but it's on par with watches that are more than double this price in my experience. So I'm not even going to call that a complaint. I would say that you're kind of getting more than you should expect at a sub $100 price point, if I'm being perfectly honest. The case, we didn't really talk about the case other than the awfulness that is the Invicta logo on the side. Aside from that, the polishing on this side, it's decent, what you would expect. Side polishing here as well. The case dimensions, which we talked about, are excellent, and the overall geometry and curves of the case, it looks good. I mean, it's Rolexy. It's Submariner-esque. So it is what it is. The crown guards, they're fine. They don't impede your ability to unscrew the screw-down crown. And the screw-down crown's threading, it's not perfect. It's not super smooth and glass-like, but it's okay. It's better than some of the Seiko SKXs that I've gotten. Once you unscrew it, pops out to the winding position, hand winding. Very good, responsive, feels decent. Pull out to the first position and you can quick set the date, which I'm not going to do because the date's set where I want it. Pull out to the second position and the movement does hack, as you can see. You can adjust the time here, obviously. Adjusting the time is good. Sometimes when you'll have like your handset will kind of wiggle and wobble when you release the tension. No problem with that here on this watch. It works good. Screwing the crown back down, because the threading is not super great, it's a little bit difficult to catch the threads. Not bad, but you probably want to be careful so that you don't cross thread that and mess up the threading on the stem tube. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that this is an excellent value. I don't, again, understand why there's so much hate for this watch. I'm pretty impressed with it. I think that even at the normal retail price of under $100, $80 to $90, it's a steal for the price that I got it for. Wow, it's awesome. I like it. I don't know. So you guys tell me down in the comments below, why is there so much hate, for lack of a better word, for these Invicta dive watches? I don't see it. I think that other than the fact that I suppose you just don't like the design, second kind of cool, like, it is a good watch, but I think it's ugly. If that's your opinion, that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But is it not a decent watch, especially for the price? I don't know. My experience, and albeit limited, is that it is a decent watch. Will this stand up to the test of time? A month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? Will it continue to be running? I mean, why not? It's a Seiko 4R36 movement. If you're saying that this watch isn't going to hold up and isn't going to continue to run, what you're saying is that Seiko watches are no good too, right? So that can't be the case, I wouldn't think. I mean, if you bought a brand new Turtle, SRP Turtle, whatever, 777, 775, whatever, any of the Turtles, it's the same exact movement. So are you saying that those watches aren't good because the movement isn't good as well? My opinion would be that's incorrect. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what is the hubbub about this watch? Why is there so many people that like to bash it? I think it's kind of a steal, and I give it a thumbs up. I guess, yeah, well, that's everything. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I gave this watch a test drive for a little over a week now. I wanted to do somewhat of a thorough review and see if I could give it my seal of approval. And based on the limited amount of time that I have with it, I give it my seal of approval. I think it's, like I said, a steal. Alright guys, I'm going to call this one, and yeah, if you're interested in picking up one of these Invictas through Amazon like I did, I'll have a link down in the notes section below this video. Of course, it's through my Amazon affiliate account, so I get a small commission if you pick it up, which helps me quite a bit. Helps me keep getting things into review. I appreciate that, as well as all of my social media. Links can be found down there, so feel free to hop over to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, hook up with me over there as well. Thanks guys, I appreciate it, and I'll be back later this week or early next week with another review. Bye now.